What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Florida Panthers is just one win away from clinching to the third Stanley Cup final in a row, that's why let's go Panthers. But let's get back to the video. It's hard to imagine a more awkward spectacle than watching a dictator try to fake a peace process while actively escalating a war. But here we are. Let's talk about that failed circus in Istanbul that we have been witnessing for the last couple of weeks, where Ukraine's President Zelensky shows up like a professional ready to negotiate, while Vladimir Putin sends in his second-tier theater troupe led by Vladimir Medinsky, a man whose main contribution to politics seems to be an unshakable talent for embarrassing photoshoots. This latest peace talk is less about peace and more about optics, not diplomacy, but a badly directed drama for foreign audiences. As determined in our previous videos, one of the main reasons is to keep Trump's administration on the edge of their seats, thinking that peace is just around the corner. Despite the fact that there are hundreds of corners in this endless maze of diplomacy. But Zelensky is not fooled, and neither we are. Even Trump started suspecting something fishy, saying in his most recent posts on Truth Social that he is not certain whether Putin wants peace or not, and that probably Vladimir is playing with him. But this is the battlefield now, not just tanks and trenches, but microphones and meeting rooms. This is Putin trying to outplay not Ukraine, but Trump. And this is Ukraine playing the long game, one humiliating provocation at a time. The big twist? Putin still thinks he can win this information war. But when your strategy is to look like the good guy while shelling hospitals and bribing your way through a losing army, that ship has already long sailed, straight into the minefield. Zelensky skillfully outplayed Putin in any of his statements. For every goodwill gesture of peace, Ukraine offered even better deal, so Putin had to politely refuse and, well, it made him look like a fool in front of the whole world watching. The alliances started shifting. Those who were uncertain about Ukraine, thinking that Russia was the one and only truly serious about the peace, now see completely the opposite picture. And many politicians are left confused. How's it possible, they ask, that Vladimir Putin lied to them? Well, let's talk about all of these things in today's video. Let's drag the skeleton out of the closet. The 2022 first Istanbul peace talks. I mean, you remember those, right? The supposed roadmap to peace that turned out to be a decoy designed to lure Ukraine into a cage with the door welded shut. Back then, Ukraine still held out hope that diplomacy might do what tanks couldn't. Both sides sat down, documents were drafted, agreements were hinted at, and then it all went up in smoke. Months later, Putin resurrected the ghost of those talks in 2023 now, waving around a draft agreement like a guy flashing his, not this, but expired, lottery ticket. He did it to impress a group of African leaders who had come to express frustration that the war was killing grain exports and inflating prices. And there was Putin, talking about how things could have been different. Look, he sighed, pointing to a document with 18 different clauses as if to say, I'm the only one here reasonable, I'm the only one ready for peace. But we all know what these clauses were about. That document was not peace, it was a power grab dressed in formal language. Russia demanded Ukrainian neutrality, security guarantees, reduced military and a sneaky little veto clause that would let the Kremlin block any response to future aggression. Meanwhile, issues like Crimea and the Donbas region were tucked under vague labels which are so-called special status regions. Even the tank math was comical. Ukraine proposed 800 units. Russia offered 342, to make it look like they did a very serious calculation to come up with this precise number. Well, that's not negotiation, that's literally trolling. And yet, the charade continued. Zelensky tried, Russia pretended, and in the end, nothing happened. But it was not just about tanks. Russia wanted a say in Ukraine's foreign policy, its alliances, and even its language policy. The draft was filled with landmines, linguistic, legal and military, all designed to ensure Ukraine remained shackled to Russia, without a single Russian boot on the ground. The final draft included bizarre add-ons, things like outlawing Nazism justification, which in Kremlin language means banning any criticism of Putin's war narrative. Apparently. Security guarantees were a joke as well. The US, China and France were named, sure, but Russia insisted on being a guarantor and having veto power, meaning the aggressor could decide whether the victim deserved help. You heard right. That's like asking a person who is about to set the forest ablaze if the fire department can respond. The guy thinks for a moment and says, "No, I don't think so. Trees in Arizona are not a fire hazard." And when the fire spreads faster than he anticipated, he blames dry climate and hot temperatures of the place. Well, that is literally what Putin proposed. That was the very first attempts, if you can even call them that way, to resolve peace back in 2022 and 2023. Now let's see how and if the situation changed in 2025. Now we are in 2025. Same place, same scam, same everything. But this time Zelensky brings his A-team, full delegation, top officials, serious intent. What does Putin do? He stays home and sends a guy who would need Google Maps to find relevance in geopolitics. Enter Vladimir Medinsky, former culture minister and current envoy of absolutely nothing. It's not a mistake, it's a plan. The idea is simple. Send a delegation so hollow, so visibly irrelevant, that Ukraine gets offended and storms out. Well, that's the bait. What's even more, the bait is not intended for Ukraine, it is intended for Trump. Yes, the Istanbul drama is not meant to fix anything. It is meant to create a narrative. One where Putin is the humble peacemaker, valiantly trying to talk sense into those unreasonable Ukrainians, specifically Zelensky. And Trump, he is the target audience. Because if Trump thinks there is hope, if he believes that negotiations are possible, he will hesitate to escalate. And that hesitation is Putin's insurance policy. But here's the twist. Zelensky does not bite. He does not storm out. He does not hesitate. He accepts. His delegation welcomes Medinsky and they say, "Fine, let's talk." Because the minute they do, the scam crumbles. Putin looks like a man who invited someone to a dinner party and then sends them with a pizza flyer instead. Here's your $5 discount. Go eat pizza at your home place. Medinsky, of course, has no authority. He is not even authorized to agree on lunch menu, let alone peace. His job is to stall, smile and delay, and maybe snack on baklava while the cameras roll. But it's more than just optics. Putin is testing the waters. How much humiliation will Ukraine tolerate before they say enough? How much fake diplomacy can be weaponized before the world tunes out entirely? That is the game. And Ukraine, to its credit, refuses to walk off the board. They know that showing up again and again forces Putin to drop the mask. He cannot hide behind Medinsky forever, no way. At some point the bluff runs out. Putin, who has been in power for more than 2 decades, set up a political game for Zelensky. The ex-clown, as his henchmen even call him. And then this clown skillfully outplays one of the most experienced politicians in his own game. Who is the clown then, after all that? That's precisely why Putin's strategy started switching more towards Trump recently. Let's talk about their toxic relationship in our next chapter. Now let's talk about Trump. Because all of this, the midnight briefings, the fake delegations, the meaningless papers, all of it is for him. Trump does not care who invaded whom. He does not care about war crimes, occupied territories or humanitarian corridors, nothing. What he wants is a win, his personal win, a ribbon-cutting moment. Peace in our time, under my presidential administration, signed at, Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Putin knows it. He knows Trump is easier to sway with symbols than facts, so he gives him a show. "Look, Donald," he says, "I'm sending negotiators. Ukraine will not play ball." And Trump, who thinks the war is a loud distraction from his own plans, well, he might just buy it. But not Zelensky.
No, I didn't anticipate. I actually said, why would he go if I'm not going? Because I wasn't going to go. I wasn't planning to go. I would go, but I wasn't planning to go. And I said, I don't think he's going to go if I don't go. And that turned out to be right.
He has seen this movie before. Early on, he mistook Trump for a potential ally. He thought he just needed to explain the facts. Russia invaded, Ukraine defended, simple as that. Except to Trump, facts are negotiable, and alliances are always transactional. So Zelensky stopped trying to win Trump's sympathy. He started targeting Trump's ego. Agreeing to every proposal, showing up to every talk, offering every compromise. Because every time he does, he shifts the narrative. Putin becomes the one who backs out, the one who sends clowns instead of diplomats, the one who offers peace with one hand and airstrikes in the other. Trump may not understand the geopolitics, but he does understand betrayal. And Putin, slowly but surely, is being revealed not as a partner, but as a joker running out of tricks. And the longer the show drags on, the more obvious it becomes. Zelensky's brilliance, on the other hand, lies in making every failure of diplomacy a win for transparency. Every fake meeting is a real moment of exposure, every pointless gesture from Russia makes Ukraine look more serious, and every ounce of Trump's patience creeps a little closer to snapping. While the Istanbul peace talks unfolded, something far more brutal is happening behind the scenes. Recruitment. Especially in Russia. Mass recruitment. Not in the name of peace, but to feed the meat grinder by any means possible. Putin boasted about hiring 70,000 new soldiers in the last month. Whether that number is real or inflated, it does not matter much. The message is loud and clear. Russia is not scaling back, it is preparing for more. You don't recruit that many men to maintain a ceasefire. You do it when you plan to burn through another generation, and you sure don't hand out multi-million ruble bonuses if you think the war is winding down. You do it when you are desperate to keep the battlefield full and the headlines vague. That is the real state of things. Putin's regime is too committed to stop, too arrogant to admit failure, and too paranoid to let the war slip out of its hands. That's why every peace offer comes with a poison pill. That's why every negotiation is designed to implode. And that's why every soldier is bought, not enlisted. The truth is, the military-industrial complex in Russia is not just alive, it is thriving. Regions are being economically cannibalized to fund endless war. Factories are being converted to churn out drones and shells. The entire nation is being transformed to ghoulish perpetual motion machine fueled by funerals. Peace under such circumstances? That's just new cover story. The real narrative is survival in this case, not Ukraine's but Russia's. The regime of Putin's, better even to say. And that means more young men must vanish into trenches, more families must be handed medals instead of sons, more propaganda must be broadcasted to silence the screams of reality. That is the real cost of Putin's war to Russia, not the restoration of whatever former imperialistic glory. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, the links down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe